Did you know that you can send contracts from your Airtable data without ever logging into your signature tool, whether that's Docusign, PandaDoc, or any of the other ones out there on the market? My name is Andrew Dodds. I'm a co-founder here at SimpleStack, and today I'm going to show you how to automatically generate contracts and send them out without ever leaving Airtable, just with the click of a button. Sound interesting? Let's jump in. Okay, so let's start with our use case, and then we'll talk about the different tools and base setup here. So our use case is that we're working on a recruiting team, and we need to be able to send out contracts quickly to folks that we want to hire. We want to automate the sending of those contracts, but also the population of the data in those contracts. So we want to be able to include sort of dynamically the person's name, the position that they're going to go to, the rate that we're going to pay them, and when they're going to start. And then on top of that, once they sign it, we want to be able to track it back to their original sort of recruitment record. And so I've set up what's probably the easiest base you will ever see, not just on this channel, but just about anywhere. It is a single table, and it includes the candidate's information such as the name, the email, the rate, start date, all of that, okay? So nothing sort of complicated here. Now when it comes to the tools, we're going to be using an integration tool called Zapier. If you've never used it before, it's super easy to use. It connects to over 5,000 different applications that are on the web, and it's great when you're using Airtable to connect to other tools you may be using that have a very, very specific purpose. One such tool is Docusign, which is great at sending contracts. You would not try to create a document creator in Airtable. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. You wouldn't try to create a contract in Airtable. But what you want to be able to do is use the information from Airtable to create and send a contract. And that's where this comes in. So Airtable is going to hold the data. Zapier is going to be the messenger between Airtable and Docusign. Okay. Now the first thing you're going to want to do once you've set your base up is to create a contract template. So here's an example one, and you'll see where we have these lines. These are going to be dynamically populated with the information from Airtable. So if you have an example that you can pull together, once you have that, export it to a Word document, and then we're going to jump over to Docusign. So over on Docusign, we're going to create a template. We're going to create a new template. And when we've done that, the very first thing we're going to do is give it a name, which is going to be the subcontractor agreement. We're also going to upload that Word doc that we exported. So let's go ahead and do that. Now this may take a moment to upload. And while it's doing that, we're going to add recipients. So adding recipients is going to determine who's going to sign the document, and also you can establish a signing order, which we want to do. We're going to have just 2 recipients here, and we're going to set a signing order. The first role is going to be the subcontractor. Now we're giving it just a role because we don't know. It's going to be a different name and email each time, but we need to hold space for that, right? And so that's what we're doing, and we're going to have it so you'll see this 1 here on the left-hand side, that they get the document to sign first, and once they sign, it kicks over to us to sign. So this is going to be me, Andrew Dodds at SimpleStack. Now you can add a message if you choose. We're not going to do that. We're just going to go ahead and click next, and then I'm going to show you how to set up this contract. Okay. So the first thing you should know if you've never used Docusign or if you've used it very little, on the left-hand side here, you can toggle between the signers. Remember, the subcontractor is going to be different every time, but Andrew's going to be the same. And we have different sort of fields that we can use here, whether that's a signature or a date sign or initial, that allow us to either require an input from the signer or to display information. Now, a lot of this is going to be us just displaying information. For instance, we're going to pull in the role and their name and how much they're going to get paid. That's not going to be something that we're expecting them to fill in. whereas we are going to have them sign, okay, using the text field. Okay, now this field you can resize, but this information here is going to be read-only. So you'll see that when we click on the box, what we can actually do is toggle this read-only, okay? That's because what we're going to do with this text is dynamically pass some information. In this case, we're going to do today's date, okay? So moving on down, we've also got when the work is actually going to commence. So that's going to be another date that we pass through to a text field, okay? And that's going to be read-only. Now you can do all sorts of fun things with formatting, validation, and tooltips. We are not covering that, but those are all options that you can use, okay? So we're going to have a name come in here, so the name of the person, and you can duplicate those. And this is also going to give us the role, okay? And then we want to provide some rate information there. Now don't forget, these are all going to be read-only. I forgot to check those boxes. I'm doing that now. Okay. Scrolling further down, there's just a few more things for us to do. We're going to bring in a text field for the printed name, so we're not going to make them print their name. We're just going to fill it out automatically. Okay. And this is going to be their name. The date signed is going to be theirs. So this will, when you use date signed in Docusign, it will just automatically choose the date that they're signing and the signature. Now, since we know the signer is me, if we switch over to me for my fields, we can pull in my name. It will automatically fill out my name. We can pull in my signature the same way and the date the same way. Okay. So we're now going to save and close this. So we're going to add a field called today's date. There would be a lot of different ways to do this, maybe even in the Zapier automation itself, but I find it really easy to just do it here. So that's where we're going to do it. And you can invoke this today formula. What that does is pull today's date, and you can choose your time zone. I'm going to choose LA and create the field. So you'll see that will give us today's date, which may be different. And now let's jump over to Zapier. So if you've never used Zapier before, as I mentioned, pretty easy. It's an integration tool, and it's going to require triggers and actions. Okay, so a trigger is something that needs to take place in order for a series of actions to kick off. So a status needs to change, a checkbox needs to be checked in order to do X, Y, or Z. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use something called a webhook. A webhook is actually really, really easy to use. Okay, and let's pull it up here. And webhooks basically are just URLs that you can send information to. Okay, and so we're going to be using a catch hook, and we don't need a child to pick off. And so you'll see that what it does is it generates this nice little URL here. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we can use this to trigger and send the record ID from Airtable. Okay, so also within Airtable you can create a formula that shows you the record ID. Whenever a record is created in Airtable, underneath all of that it has a record ID that is created. It's normally not surfaced, but you use it for a lot of things, especially in integrations. And in order to invoke that, you're just going to take this record ID and close the parentheses, and you'll see that we get a nice little string. It always starts with REC, and it will always be unique to a record that's created. So if I created a new record here, you'll see that it automatically creates a record ID. Okay? So we've got this. Now what we want to do is use that webhook that we copied to send this information. And the way you do that again, I'm going to call this the webhook URL. We're going to take a formula and we're going to use the concatenation. Now concatenation is putting text together. provides you a flexible way to combine information that is in different fields. Now in this case, what we want to do is put that URL in quotes, just like that, so you can see that there. Okay. Then you're going to do a question mark, and then this is what's called a parameter, key value pairs. So I'm sending the record ID, so I'm going to call it the record ID equals, and then what we want to do is we want to just look at that record ID. So we give it a comma, reference that record ID field, and then close the parentheses. So what you end up with is a really kind of cool version of the URL, which will be different for each subsequent record you create. And we can now click on this. Now you'll see it opens this gobbledygook. Don't worry about this. This is just something that will pop up whenever you trigger the webhook. So over here, if we now test the trigger, since we clicked that, you'll see that we get a record ID parameter and with a value of the record ID, 4xqj. So now we have enough information here to really go about pulling some more information about that Airtable record. Now the reason we use a webhook is it's instantaneous, whereas using some of the built-in things that you could do to just find the record automatically might take 5 minutes. It would check every 5 to 10 minutes. So a webhook is preferred just for how quickly you can run this contract automation. So we're going to continue with the selected record. The next thing we're going to do is an Airtable step. Now this Airtable step is going to be to find a record, and the way we're going to find that record is with that record ID that we just passed. Okay, so we're going to choose our account here. You'll connect your account, and then you're going to configure the action, which is going to be contract automation. So that's going to be the base. You're going to want to grab your table, which is going to be the candidate table, and then the search by field. Remember, we created that record ID formula, so not the URL, but the actual record ID formula. There it is. Okay, search by that field, and the search value is going to be what came through the webhook. Okay, now when we test this, you'll see that it's going to bring in all of our information about this candidate. It's pretty awesome. We've got the field for position, we've got the rate, we've got the start date, we've got all sorts of amazing things here. Okay, and so now we are really on our way to being able to put all of this information into the Docusign template dynamically. So our next step is going to be a Docusign step. They've recently changed their logo. I don't know if you noticed, it used to be a yellow box. It now is not. So what we want to do is create a signature request, okay? So we're going to go ahead and connect our Docusign now. And we'll do it in production. That's fine. So this is going to bring us to Docusign to maybe confirm some things. And there we go. We are logged in. So now we get to choose the action. Now remember, we already kind of spent the time setting up that template, that one-time setup of the template called the subcontractor agreement. That is complete. That looks good. Now we could have an email subject. Let's say this is your contractor offer with SimpleStack. This will overwrite whatever is in the template settings. This you could give an email blurb to the recipient if you want. Let's say, can't wait for you to join our team. Okay. The recipient email. Now remember, we had stored the email, so we're going to go find it here from our previous step, the find records in Airtable, step number 2. Now it's worth noting, if this is your very first time with Zapier, as the steps go on, you have access to all previous steps and their data. So we're in step 2. I'm going to grab the email that we want to send to, the recipient name. There it is. Okay. The recipient role, subcontractor. Do it from the top down because that's the order that these are in, okay? So if we look at our template really quick, let me just show you this again. and we'll probably want to reference these back and forth. If we look at the template, the very first field is this prepared field. So that should be the value that is today. Okay, so that's this first field here. Now remember, we have that field in Airtable that's telling us today's date, so we're going to insert that. Okay. Our very next field is the subcontractor will commence work on. Okay, so we have a field for that, which is the work will start date. Start date. Here it is. So that's going to be July 11th. The next field is the name and then the role. So we're going to do that. So we've got the name and then the role. Now, all of these steps, by the way, you'll be pulling from the second step. And finally, we've got the rate per hour, so how much they're going to get paid, and the printed name. So we're going to do the rate, which is here, and we're going to do the printed name, which is just going to be the name. All right? So that is how we set this up. Now, let's go ahead and give this a test, and we'll take a look in my email, okay? And we'll sort of see how this works. All right, so testing. Hopefully we get a green check. See how we did. So it's been sent, which means it's ready to be signed by the first party, which is the subcontractor in this case. And there it is. So I can review the document. Now, I'm acting as the subcontractor this time, okay. Okay, continue. So prepared on, and again, remember, you have formatting options, so it doesn't have to look like this text, but this is just for the example. We've got Andrew Dodds will be engaged as a developer for $200 an hour. Okay. And here's the name and the date. And I'm going to go ahead and sign this document. Now, when I sign this document, it's going to send it to Andrew at SimpleStack. Because let's go take a look. So now it's been sent to me, and I can review and sign this document. Okay, now there's one more step that we want to add to the sending of the contract, which is to capture the envelope ID, which is a unique ID that's given by Docusign to the signature request. And we want to capture that and write it into this record. And so this is going to be called the envelope ID, and it's going to be a single line text, so it's going to be really simple. And we will send this information, which is going to be an Airtable step. And what we're going to do is choose the update record and setting up the action. That, of course, is going to be in the contract automation base. And the table is going to be a candidate table. The record that we're going to be updating is going to be that record, that initial record here. Okay. And what we want to update is the envelope ID, which you can find by going into step 3 and finding the envelope ID. So we're going to put it right there. We'll go ahead and click continue and test the step. You'll see that when we test that, it shoots this string of characters in. Okay. On create. And this one's actually going to start with Docusign. And what we're going to look for is an envelope status being updated. And the trigger is going to be when the status is completed. All right. Now, when the status is completed, okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and continue with that selected record. Our next step is going to be an Airtable step. This Airtable step is going to be to find a record. Now we're going to choose our account and configure the action. So this is going to be in the contracting base, contract automation table. There's only one. That's the candidate table. We want to search by the envelope ID field. Okay, and the search value is going to be the envelope ID, wherever that is. There it is. From the one that was just completed. Search for exact match, yes. Okay. Now we want to test this step to see if we can find a record. And there we go, we've got it. So now that we've found the record, we want to set up a update step. Because finding the record gives us access to the record ID. Then we want to update that with the actual document. So we're going to update a record in the contract automation base. Candidate. The record that we're going to update is going to be the found record ID. There it is. And what we'd like to update is the signed contract. Okay, so the signed contract is going to be here. And we're going to find the, not the download link, but we want to find the document URL. There we are. Okay, so we'll go ahead and test that step. So that should send the contract in. There it is. Okay, so let's take this through from beginning to ends. Create an offer for Brett. All right. Position is going to be developer. It's going to be Brett, or let's just say Andrew 350. Start date is going to be August 8th. Today's date, all of that. Okay, this is ready to send out. So I'll go ahead and click that. Now what that'll do is send a contract to Brett. So we'll give it a second to get here. There it is. You can review the document. Agree. We've got all the information. It's going to be getting paid $350 an hour. Okay. Just going to go ahead and sign it. Finish. Now that'll shoot it to me on the simple stack side. Where I can review it. And I can go ahead and approve it by signing. And you'll see when we jump back over here to our Airtable, we get our updated signed contract. Okay, so that's it for now. You've learned to do the basics of automating contracts with your Airtable data, and I hope you enjoyed it.